It was a cloudy day, and the sky seemed as heavy and sorrowful as the hearts of those who had gathered at Rosa's funeral. The air was thick with sadness as everyone stood in quiet contemplation. Some clutched tissues, others wiped away tears, all lost in memories of the moments they had shared with Rosa. The soft breeze rustled the leaves in the trees, as if nature itself were offering its quiet tribute to the woman they had all loved. A silence hung in the air, thick and unbroken, until, suddenly, a loud bark shattered the stillness. It was Rocky, Rosa's dog, barking incessantly. This wasn't just any dog. Rocky had always been by Rosa's side, her loyal companion through thick and thin. But now, as he stood before the gathering, he barked wildly, his eyes locked on the coffin with an intensity that startled everyone. People exchanged glances, perplexed. What could Rocky possibly be reacting to? What was he trying to tell them? Some whispered among themselves, "What's wrong with him? Why is he so agitated?" The dog paced back and forth, never once taking his eyes off the coffin. His barking grew louder, more desperate, almost as if he were trying to warn everyone of something. His behaviour was so unusual, so out of place, that even the most sceptical among them couldn't help but wonder if there was something more to this than they understood. Rocky was known throughout the village for his intelligence. Everyone knew that he wasn't just an ordinary dog. He had an almost uncanny ability to sense things that humans couldn't. Some of the children began to feel uneasy, recalling the strange tales they'd heard about animals sensing spirits or impending danger. Could Rocky be sensing something? Was there something wrong with the coffin? Something they hadn't noticed? As the barking continued, a few adults cautiously approached the dog, trying to calm him down. They spoke in gentle voices, hoping to soothe him, but Rocky refused to stop. He was as determined as ever, his eyes fixed on the coffin, his body tense with agitation. His barking grew louder, as though he were insisting that everyone pay attention. The room fell silent as the once quiet gathering now found itself captivated by the dog's strange behaviour. The people began to feel a creeping sense of unease, as though something invisible was in the air, something they couldn't see but could certainly feel. Even those who weren't prone to believing in the supernatural began to question what was happening. Father Miguel, standing near the coffin, could feel all eyes turning toward him and the dog. He cleared his throat nervously and took a deep breath, hoping to regain control of the situation. With a soft wave of his hand, he gestured for everyone to sit back down, trying to ease the tension. "Everything is fine," he said with a forced smile, his voice trying to mask the discomfort he was feeling. "It's just a dog." But his words did little to calm anyone. The barking only seemed to grow more intense, more insistent. The priest took a step toward Rocky, hoping that his authority would be enough to settle the animal. "Come on, Rocky," he said gently. "Calm down, there's nothing to worry about." But Rocky didn't stop. He kept barking, eyes still fixed on the coffin, as if he were trying to communicate something urgent. Father Miguel reached out a hand, attempting to pet Rocky's head in an effort to reassure him. But to his surprise, the dog pulled back, growing softly, never taking his eyes off the coffin. A bead of sweat appeared on Father Miguel's forehead as he looked around the room, realising that everyone was watching him, waiting for him to make sense of the situation. Some people murmured nervously. Maybe the dog knows something we don't," one woman whispered to her friend. The atmosphere in the room grew thicker, more uncomfortable. A cold shiver ran down some spines as they began to question whether there was something more at play here than just the loss of a loved one. Father Miguel cleared his throat again, trying to mask his own unease. "It's just a dog, nothing more," he said, his voice a little shakier than before. "Let's continue with the service." But his words fell flat. The dog's behaviour was simply too strange to ignore. Even those who had little patience for superstitions began to wonder, was there something Rocky knew that they didn't? Meanwhile, as the minutes passed, a man in the crowd stood out. He was someone who wasn't well known in the village, a newcomer named Raphael. He had only arrived in the town a few months ago, but in that time, he had developed a quiet affection for Rosa, despite not knowing her deeply. Raphael had always been an observant person, with a keen eye for detail. He enjoyed solving mysteries, and the way Rocky was intrigued by acting him. Something wasn't right, and Raphael could feel it deep in his gut. Raphael felt a sudden sense of urgency. What was inside that coffin? Why was Rocky acting this way? There was something hidden, something no one had noticed. The tension in the room grew thicker as the dog's barking continued, with each sharp cry reverberating in the solemn space. Could Rocky be sensing something invisible to the human eye? Some of the guests began to whisper nervously, their minds racing with possibilities. Was it something supernatural? Or was there a more logical explanation for the dog's strange behaviour? Perhaps there was something more to Rosa's death than anyone had realised. Father Miguel, clearly uncomfortable, could feel the situation slipping out of his control. He took a deep breath, adjusted his vestments, and with a serious expression made his way to the centre of the church. Raising his hands, he called for silence. He chided. Please, everyone, calm down," he said, his voice firm but slightly trembling, betraying his nerves. "We are here to pay our final respects to Rosa, a woman who was loved by all of us." He cast a sharp glance at Raphael, who was still standing next to Rocky, trying to understand what the dog was trying to show them. "This is not appropriate," Father Miguel continued, his voice rising slightly. "We should not allow someone to come here and cause a disturbance at such a delicate moment." Some of the people in the church nodded their heads, agreeing with the priest, while others exchanged glances filled with doubt and curiosity. Why was Father Miguel so nervous? Why was he in such a hurry to end this strange situation? His unease seemed almost too obvious, and the growing anxiety in the room was palpable. Father Miguel then pointed directly at Raphael. "What you're doing is disrespectful to Rosa," he said, his tone now louder and more cutting. "Leave that dog alone, and stop distracting us with this nonsense." Raphael felt the weight of the accusation hanging over him. He stared at the priest, unflinching, sensing that there was something more beneath the surface. There was something in the way Father Miguel spoke, an exaggerated insistence on calming things down that made Raphael even more suspicious. It was as though the priest was trying too hard to keep everything under control. Rocky, standing by Raphael's side, grew quietly, as if he too didn't like the tone of the priest's voice. But Father Miguel, feeling that he was losing control, pressed on. "Please everyone, let's not let Rosa's memory be stained by this behaviour," he said, his voice quivering with a mix of concern and urgency. "Let us return to our original purpose, praying for her soul and her eternal peace." While his words seemed filled with worry, anyone watching closely could see the sweat on his forehead and the trembling of his hands, betraying the priest's true feelings. Something wasn't right, and the more Father Miguel tried to insist that everything was normal, the more suspicious his behaviour became. The room fell into a tense silence, and all eyes were on Raphael. Would he back down, or would he continue to question what was happening? Before continuing, don't forget to like and subscribe if you love animals and their thrilling stories. Noticing Father Miguel's growing discomfort and his desire to end the conversation as quickly as possible, Raphael decided to ask the one question that everyone had been too afraid to ask. He raised his voice, turning to the priest with a steady gaze. "Father Miguel, how exactly did Rosa die?" A ripple of surprise passed through the church. People exchanged shocked glances, whispers spreading like wildfire. Father Miguel's eyes widened in disbelief. He had told everyone that Rosa had passed away peacefully in her sleep. But now, Raphael's question hung in the air like a heavy weight, casting doubt over everything. "How did she die?" Father Miguel repeated, his voice tight with unease. I found her in her bed. She passed away peacefully during the night." He repeated the words almost as if trying to convince himself. "She died in her sleep," he said, almost as if it were a mantra, meant to reassure not just others but also himself. Raphael took a step forward, unyielding in his pursuit of the truth. "But why was Rosa alone? And why were you the first one to find her? Doesn't that seem a little strange? Maybe we should investigate a little further." A low murmur rippled through the crowd, a mix of curiosity and growing unease. The children stared wide-eyed, trying to make sense of the tension, while adults whispered among themselves, further thickening the air of uncertainty. Father Miguel's face reddened, and a surge of anger flashed in his eyes. He stomped his foot on the ground, silencing the room once more. "This is absurd," he exclaimed, his voice now rising to a near shout. "You're causing a disturbance at a sacred moment. You're disrespecting the memory of a woman so beloved by all of us." Without wasting another moment, Father Miguel pointed at Raphael, his finger trembling with authority. "Get out of here, immediately! You and that dog!" His words were meant to be firm, but the increasing nervousness in his voice couldn't be hidden. There was something growing in his tone, something urgent, something he desperately wanted to shut down. "We will not tolerate another word from you in this holy place." Father Miguel's words were sharp, and his eyes burned with a fury that only added to the strange tension in the room. Raphael hesitated for a moment. He could feel the weight of the priest's command, but Rocky, standing beside him, let out a loud bark, almost as if in protest to the priest's expulsion. It was as if the dog was responding to the growing injustice in the air. Raphael knew he had hit a nerve. He had touched on something important, something the priest didn't want anyone to uncover. But for now, there was no other choice. Slowly, Raphael turned, taking the leash in his hand. He gave one last defiant glance at Father Miguel before walking toward the door. The whispers in the church grew louder, the tension thickening with each step Raphael took. The mystery was far from over. After what happened at the church, Raphael walked out with Rocky at his side, feeling the weight of the curious and distrustful glances of the people of the town. However, he knew that he couldn't leave things like that. Something inside him told him that this mystery had to be solved, that there was something more to discover about Rosa's death. And Rocky, with his alert attitude and tail wagging as if he was ready for the next adventure, seemed to completely agree. "Come on, buddy," Raphael whispered, looking at the dog. "I think we have a lot to discover around here." Together they began their investigation in the cemetery, walking among the trees and ancient tombstones that marked the passage of time. The wind blew cold, moving the fallen leaves and creating a sound that seemed like a whisper in the silence of the place. Raphael looked around and instantly realised that the environment had an even more mysterious air than he had imagined. Rocky, meanwhile, sniffed the ground restlessly, moving back and forth as if he knew exactly where to look. It was almost as if the dog had a special instinct for finding something that humans couldn't see or sense. Raphael decided that the first step would be to find out more about Rosa's life, so they headed to her house. Rosa's house was a small stone building, situated on the edge of the forest with a garden that looked abandoned, overgrown with weeds. When he arrived, Raphael was surprised to see that the door was unlocked, as if someone had left in a hurry. As he entered, he felt a chill run through his body. The place was dusty, but something wasn't right. It looked like someone had been there recently, moving things around without caring about the mess. Rocky walked beside him, sniffing and searching every corner with great concentration. Raphael began to explore the house. He searched through drawers, looked through papers, and found a small wooden box on an antique table. When he opened it, he discovered letters and photographs that had turned yellow with age. He began to read the letters and soon realised that Rosa had many secrets. The letters spoke of secret meetings, of conversations Rosa had had with people outside the village, some of which mentioned important people. But what surprised Raphael most was a letter written by Rosa herself, in which she mentioned Father Miguel, saying that she had discovered something very serious about him. Raphael looked at Rocky, who seemed uneasy, as if the dog sensed they were close to something important. At that moment, Raphael's intuition told him to keep looking, and so he did. Following his impulse, Raphael found a small key taped to the back of one of the pictures hanging on the wall. The key looked very old and mysterious. What would it open? Raphael thought out loud. Rocky let out a short bark, as if encouraging Raphael to keep looking. Next to the key was a photograph. In it, Rosa was standing next to Father Miguel, and in the background the village church could be seen. But what really caught Raphael's attention was what was at the foot of the picture. A small metal box, identical to the one Rosa had mentioned in her letters about Father Miguel, the one that hid money. "We're on the right track," Raphael said, petting Rocky. "If Rosa was trying to tell us something about the father, maybe this key is the answer we need." With the key in hand and Rocky at his side, Raphael felt a surge of determination. The truth was closer than ever. Now all he needed was to find out what the priest was hiding. To do that, he would have to search every corner of the town, no matter how dark or dangerous. Do you think Raphael is doing the right thing by investigating? What would you do in his place? Leave us your comment and stay until the end, because this story will leave you speechless. With the key in hand, Raphael felt he was closer to the truth. He and Rocky decided to return to the centre of town, where they could continue their investigation. The town seemed quiet, but Raphael knew there was something dark and hidden in it, something that no one wanted to be discovered. He needed to understand the secrets Rosa had kept, the secrets she knew about Father Miguel. So with a firm step, he headed to the village library, an old and dusty place, filled with shelves full of aged books and old documents. This would be the next step in his search for answers. Inside, Raphael began searching for anything that might shed light on the connection between Rosa and Father Miguel. He turned to the archives, flipped through books, and studied the town's historical records. He knew something was not right in this quiet community, and the key he had found in Rosa's house was the clue that would lead him to the truth. Meanwhile, Rocky continued to sniff around, as if the dog had a special sense for detecting the shadows lurking behind the city's facade. Somewhere, something was about to be revealed, something that would change everything. After some searching, Raphael found something that really puzzled him, an old photo album of the city. Flipping through its pages, he saw pictures of community events, religious festivals, and finally a series of photos of Rosa. However, one of them immediately caught his attention. It was a picture of Rosa with Father Miguel. What seemed to be an ordinary photo between two people he knew, but what struck him as odd was the expression on Rosa's face. She didn't seem happy, but rather worried. Something in her gaze seemed to convey fear, a sense of unease. Then Raphael noticed something that had almost gone unnoticed. In the corners of the photo, barely visible, was what looked like a small metal box. It was the same box he had seen in the photograph found in Rosa's house. A shiver ran down his spine, and curiosity took hold of him. What did this mean? Why did Rosa seem so worried when she was near Father Miguel? Driven by the urgency of unravelling this mystery, Raphael returned to Rosa's house. There, he continued his search for more clues that could connect all the elements. It was in a closet, hidden behind an old curtain, that he found something very important, a notebook. When he opened it, he discovered that it was Rosa's diary. The pages were filled with notes, some written in a hurried handwriting, as if Rosa was trying to record something she did not want to be forgotten. Raphael began to read quickly, and beside him, Rocky, the dog, seemed to sense the tension in the air. He sniffed, restless, as if he also understood that something big was about to be revealed. The notes spoke of something very serious. Rosa had discovered a network of corruption within the church. She specifically mentioned Father Miguel, accusing him of using the money of the faithful for something mysterious. He was hiding large amounts of money and using the trust of the community to cover up his crimes. He is stealing from everyone and using people's faith to cover up his crimes, Rosa wrote on one of the pages. Raphael felt his heart beat faster with each line he read. He knew that what he was discovering was something big, something that no one was supposed to know about. But suddenly, between the pages of the diary, he found an envelope containing more photographs. In them, Father Miguel appeared in hidden places in the church, always carrying a small metal box with him. In one of the photos, he was standing next to an ancient statue inside the church, with the box in his hand, as if he were hiding something beneath the image. Raphael felt a chill run down his spine. "So that's it," he muttered, looking at Rocky. "She found out everything, and that's why she was in danger." It was clear now. Rose had discovered the truth behind the priest's mysterious actions, and she was trying to warn someone. But evidently, she couldn't do it in time. Raphael knew he needed to find that metal box, because it was probably the key to understanding the whole mystery. He looked at Rocky, who was wagging his tail as if he was also ready for the next step. "Come on, kid," Raphael said, his look determined. "We have a big secret to uncover." He felt that the situation was more serious than he had imagined. With each new discovery, the truth about what was really going on in that small town seemed to be about to be revealed. Raphael held Rosa's diary tightly in his hands, and each word written there seemed to weigh more than the last. He knew that he needed to return to the church, the place where all the secrets seemed to converge. He and Rocky walked quickly through the narrow streets of the town, feeling the adrenaline rising with each step they took. Raphael was determined to find the metal box mentioned in Rosa's notes. He knew that this was the key to unlocking everything. Arriving at the church, he looked around to make sure no one was following him. The church was silent, with the doors ajar. The interior was shrouded in shadows, creating a tense and mysterious atmosphere. Raphael entered silently, with Rocky at his side, and began to explore the place. He remembered the photo he had seen. The metal box was hidden beneath one of the ancient statues. He walked slowly, cautiously, until he came to a statue of a saint located in a corner of the church. The figure seemed to observe everyone with a serious, almost severe gaze. Raphael knelt in front of the statue and with trembling hands began to feel beneath it, looking for any sign of a hiding place. A few tense seconds passed until suddenly he felt something cold and metallic. There was something there. He quickly pulled aside a small piece of cloth covering the base of the statue, and hidden in the shadows, he found the metal box that Rosa had mentioned in her diary. Raphael held the box with trembling hands. He knew that at that moment he had revealed a secret that would change everything. He looked at Rocky, who remained at his side, equally attentive. "We found it," Raphael said, his voice low but full of determination. "This is the key, Rocky. The truth is inside this box." With his heart pounding, Raphael prepared to discover what was inside the box. Would it be the evidence he needed to unmask Father Miguel? Or was there something even darker waiting to be revealed? One thing was certain, though. Whatever Rosa had discovered, it was now in his hands. And the truth about the church and the priest was about to come to light. Raphael, key in hand, realised he couldn't just sit still. The mystery had grown beyond his wildest dreams, and now, with each clue he found, a terrifying truth was revealed. Rocky, as if understanding the urgency of the situation, stood alertly by his side. As they walked toward the church, Raphael couldn't stop thinking about the map and the small key he had found in the metal box. What else could be hidden in that place? He knew that whatever the priest was hiding had to be something very big and dangerous. Upon arriving at the church, Raphael and Rocky headed straight for the altar. Although the place seemed quiet, there was a palpable sense of something dark in the air. The pews were empty, but the silence that reigned was eerie. Raphael searched every corner of the place, looking for any additional clue that would guide him to the secret cache he had found on the map. In the distance, he saw the statue of a saint that seemed to observe him with a cold and severe gaze. Suddenly, a thought crossed his mind. What if the priest had been hiding things in other places too? Raphael couldn't trust Father Miguel with anything. However, he had no more time to waste. He had to move on. Father Miguel was not the pious man everyone believed him to be. As Raphael continued his investigations, he discovered more chilling details about how the priest had manipulated the community. In Rosa's diary, he found mentions of secret meetings between the priest and town figures, some even with outsiders, who discussed large sums of money and shady dealings. The townspeople had been blindsided for years. Throughout his investigations, Raphael discovered that Miguel had been doing clandestine business, using the offerings of the faithful to finance a shady business that involved trafficking in stolen goods and dirty money. Meanwhile, the townspeople continued to know nothing, blindly trusting their priest. And now, when everything was about to come to light, Raphael felt he had to hurry. Raphael felt like he was getting closer to the truth with every step he took. As Rocky sniffed restlessly near the statue of the saint, Raphael noticed something strange. The base of the figure seemed to move slightly, as if it was hiding something behind it. With shaking hands, he began to lift a piece of cloth covering the base, and to his surprise, found a small metal box hidden in the shadow. With his heart pounding, Raphael opened it, finding rolled up bundles of money, each marked with labels indicating they came from donations and tithes from parishioners. But the scariest thing was what he found underneath. A yellow envelope with a map, just like the one Rosa had found, with a red circle marked in a secret place inside the church. the storage room. Quickly, Raphael picked up the map and the small key and headed to where the secret door was hidden behind the altar. The atmosphere in the church grew denser as he went, as if the place itself was twisted by the secrets it held. With a creak, the secret door opened. Beyond it, a steep staircase led down to a dark basement. With Rocky at his side, Raphael carefully descended the steps. The air was thick and cold, and a strange sound of chains echoed in the empty space. As he reached the end of the corridor, he saw a dim lamp flickering, illuminating the room where Rosa was chained to a chair, pale but alive. "Rosa!" Raphael exclaimed, running towards her. His relief was palpable, but he had no time for more words. He knew something worse could be about to happen. Suddenly, Raphael heard heavy footsteps behind him. He turned around and saw Father Miguel, his face twisted in anger, holding a piece of wood. The priest shouted furiously, "You shouldn't have come here! I told you you wouldn't find Rosa!" Raphael barely had time to react when the priest moved forward with the stick, looking to hit him. Raphael narrowly dodged the blow, but the impact destabilized him and he fell to the ground. As he tried to recover, the priest moved forward, ready to strike again. However, at that moment, Rocky leaped ferociously, biting his leg with all his strength. The priest screamed in pain, and when he tried to break free, the dog wouldn't let him go. Desperate, Father Miguel dropped the piece of wood and started running, limping from Rocky's bites. Raphael didn't let him get away, quickly getting up and running after him. When they reached the town square, people began to emerge from their houses, drawn by the noise. Seeing Father Miguel fighting with Raphael and being attacked by a dog, expressions of surprise and horror spread among the neighbours. Raphael seized the moment and shouted at the top of his voice, "Everyone must know the truth. This man has been stealing from the community and has kidnapped Rosa." The murmurs grew louder, and Father Miguel tried to escape, but the men of the village quickly restrained him. Raphael, with his firm voice, continued to relate what had happened. The neighbours could not believe what they were hearing. Their beloved priest, the man they trusted, had been secretly carrying out a network of corruption and crimes. Arriving back at the church, Raphael opened the metal box in front of everyone, revealing the bundles of money and the map of the depository. The villagers' eyes widened in shock at the evidence of the priest's corruption. The village finally knew the truth. Rosa was released, but she still trembled at the sight of her kidnapper's face. Raphael and Rocky were the heroes of the day. As the community gathered together, discussing what they had just discovered, Raphael knew that nothing would be the same in the town after this. The priest would be brought to trial and justice would be served, though the scars of this betrayal would take time to heal. The truth had come out, and with it, Rosa's release and the end of Father Miguel's reign of terror. Raphael, along with his loyal dog Rocky, had uncovered a web of corruption that had been hiding evil behind a religious facade for years. What do you think about Raphael's action? Do you think he acted correctly? Leave us your comment below and subscribe for more exciting stories. Don't miss out on what's coming next. The relief was evident on Raphael's face as he gazed at the scene before him. Rocky, realising his task was complete, wagged his tail joyfully. With Father Miguel immobilised and the evidence of his crimes laid bare before the entire village, it seemed that the mystery was finally solved. But Raphael knew, deep down, that the priest was not someone who would give up so easily. As the villagers debated what to do next, Father Miguel, in a moment of sheer despair, seized an opportunity. He broke free from the grasp of those holding him, his eyes burning with hatred. Grabbing a wooden plank from the ground, he moved quickly, charging toward Raphael with the fury of a cornered man. "You don't understand!" the priest screamed, his voice full of venom. "You should have never gotten involved in this." Raphael was momentarily stunned. His mind struggled to comprehend the surreal sight before him. A priest, someone who was supposed to represent peace and sanctity, charging at him with violent intent. For a brief moment, time seemed to stand still, but before Father Miguel could strike, Rocky leapt into action without hesitation. With a powerful jump, he lunged at the priest, biting down on his leg. Father Miguel cried out in pain and fell to the ground, desperately trying to free himself from the dog's grip. Raphael, shaken from his initial shock, quickly regained his bearings and rushed to Rocky's aid. He tried to pull the struggling priest away, but the chaos only intensified. The struggle between them raged on. Shouts, growls, and the sound of tumbling bodies filled the air. For a moment, Father Miguel broke free from Rocky's hold and limped away, making a desperate run for the town square. But Rocky was not ready to give up. He pursued the priest relentlessly, barking loudly, determined to stop him. Soon, Rocky caught up to Father Miguel in the middle of the square. With another mighty leap, the dog knocked the priest to the ground, preventing him from escaping. The villagers, now gathered in the square, watched in stunned silence. They couldn't believe what they were witnessing. This was Father Miguel, a man who was supposed to be a symbol of goodness and faith, reduced to this desperate and violent figure. Raphael, breathing heavily from the exertion, approached the scene. He began explaining once again what had happened. He told the crowd about Rosa's discovery of the priest's secrets and the terrible kidnapping she had hardened at her hands. As he spoke, some of the villagers began to help restrain the priest. To prove the truth of his story, Raphael led them back to the church. Inside, he opened the metal box that had once been hidden, revealing the stolen money. The crowd gasped in shock as the evidence of the crime became undeniable. Raphael then took the key he had found and led everyone to the secret storage room in the church. There, to their collective relief, they found Rosa, still weak but very much alive. A collective sigh of relief swept through the crowd. Joy and astonishment filled their eyes as they saw the truth for themselves. Rocky, ever the loyal companion, ran straight to Rosa, wagging his tail in happiness. He knew she was safe now. Father Miguel, realizing there was no escape, attempted to justify his actions, but his words fell on deaf ears. The truth was clear, shining brightly for all to see, and no amount of excuses could change that. With the help of Rocky, Raphael had uncovered the dark secrets the priest had desperately tried to hide for so long. After the confrontation, Father Miguel was captured and taken away by the police, exposed for his crimes of corruption and kidnapping. Rosa, finally free, expressed her deep gratitude to Raphael and Rocky for saving her and revealing the truth. As the town began to heal, its people felt a renewed sense of hope. Raphael decided to stay in the village, helping Rosa and becoming an integral part of the community. Rocky was hailed as a local hero, celebrated by all. The village, once shrouded in fear and distrust, was now united by courage, truth, and a shared sense of justice. The story of Raphael and Rocky taught the villagers a powerful lesson that no matter how dark the times may seem, the light of truth always has a way of breaking through. They learned that courage, when coupled with righteousness, can bring justice even to the most unlikely of situations. The town began to rebuild with transparency, trust, and renewed strength. And in the end, everyone found a new beginning, one forged in the bravery of a dog and the unwavering determination of a man who refused to let evil go unchecked. This story teaches us the importance of standing up for what is right, even when it seems like the odds are against us. Raphael and Rocky's courage helped expose the truth and bring justice to the village. The lesson here is clear. Sometimes the fight for justice is difficult, but with the strength of character and determination, we can make a difference. No matter how deep the darkness, the light of truth will always find a way to shine through. Thank you so much for watching this story. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. What do you think about Raphael and Rocky's heroic actions? Let's talk about it.